Parshas Vayigash, Tov Shin, Pei Daled. In addition to this week being Parshas Vayigash, the Parsha of the week, I hope that everybody knows that tonight, tomorrow is also Asara B'Teves, the fast day of Asara B'Teves, and we're going to actually concentrate tonight's year on the Parsha of the week. But I just want to bring it up that everybody should realize what Asara B'Teves is about. And it's actually interesting. It happened a couple of years ago also. It's actually interesting that it comes out on a Friday. It's the only fast day, the only tinus that could be on a Friday. And it's just different going into Kabbalah Shabbos. Everybody all of a sudden hoping that you don't have a Kalbach Kabbalah Shabbos tomorrow night. You hope it goes a little faster. And we just need to remind ourselves that Asara B'Teves was the beginning of the end for Yerushalayim, for the Beis HaMikdash. And we need to remember that while the city was surrounded, while the attack on the city was beginning, when we came to Asara B'Teves, we need to remember why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. And it's so pertinent and it's so important. We all see what's going on in the world. We all see how much we need Mashiach, how much we need the Beis HaMikdash. And I got news for you. It's not happening until we fix up the reason why we were asked to leave Eretz Yisrael and the reason why the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. So it's Kedai, everybody, tonight, tomorrow, to think a little bit about Avas Chinam, Avas Yisrael, to push against the tide of Sinas Chinam, of things that happened in the past and things that we want to do tshuva for, things that we regret, things that we want to make up for. And it's Kedai for everybody to think a little bit about Yerushalayim and why it is not rebuilt yet. The pasuk says in our parsha, "Vayomer Yosef el Achav." You know, Yosef, one of the most unbelievable storylines, quote, in the Torah. When Yosef tells his brothers, he tells the Shvatim, Ani Yosef. Amazing, right? After everything that happened and all the drama that was unfolding. So Yosef says to his brothers, Ani Yosef, Ha'oid avi chai. Right away he asks, is my father alive? And then Nesivos Shalom asks over here, if you look back a little bit, like right before this in the Torah, the Shvatim already asked Yosef, they asked about Yaakov Avinu right before that. And yet they said that Yosef said to his brothers, Hashalom avichem hazakein asher amartem. Is your father, the one that you told me about, is he okay? Is he b'shalom? Ha'idenu chai? Is he still living? And the brothers, they already answered, Oidenu Chai, he's living. That Yaakov Avinu is living. So now, Yosef, right after that, Yosef goes ahead, tells his brothers, Ani Yosef, and he asks, Ha'oid avi chai, is my father alive? Yosef knew good and well, right then, who was told to him, Yosef knew good and well already that Yaakov Avinu was alive. Why did Yosef ask that question again? In addition to that, at this point, when Yosef already told his brothers who he was, the question should not be Ha'oid avi chai. The question should be, right, it shouldn't be singular anymore. Now that they know that they're related, that they're brothers, the question should be Ha'oid avinu chai. Is our father alive? Well, before... Okay, I understand. Yosef, they were going through this whole play. Everything was playing out over here. So Yosef said, "Ha'oid avi chai." But now that they all knew that they were brothers, the question should have been, "Ha'oid avinu chai." Is our father alive? And it actually so happens, the Nesivos Shalom points out, if you take a look in the Torah, aside from asking why it's Ha'oid avi and not Avinu, and why Yosef is asking the question in the first place, but if you look in the Torah, you see that Yosef did not even get an answer to these questions. to this question. He asked, Ha'oira v'chai, and there's no answer. There's no answer to this question at all in the Torah. So to explain all of this, Nesivos Shalom says, let's go back a little bit and let's look at something that happened in Parshas Vayeshev. And with that, we'll begin to explain what's going on here in our Parsha. The Torah tells us about Yaakov Avinu. When Yosef was gone, when Yosef disappeared, and Yaakov Avinu did not know what happened to Yosef, and then they told Yaakov Avinu that it looked like Yosef was killed by an animal, and that Yosef was gone. And the Torah tells us about Yaakov Avinu, Vayimo'ein lehisnachem. Yaakov Avinu refused to be consoled. He could not be consoled. So the question is, we know tzaddikim, people who are Bali Madrega, someone like Yaakov Avinu, we can't even understand what a Madrega Yaakov Avinu was on. We know that tzaddikim, of course, they are mikabel the Ratzon Hashem. And they know that whatever Hashem does in their lives is for the good. They're mikabel the Ratzon Hashem. So how do we say about Yaakov Avinu that Vayimo'ein lehisnachem, that Yaakov Avinu refused? He was inconsolable. He could not be consoled. How could it be that Yaakov Avinu refused to accept and to come to terms with what happened to Yosef? So Nesivos Shalom explains with the Yesod that we've spoken about in previous years, and we'll just elaborate on it a little more right now. And he says like this: the Avos HaKadoshim, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they were on such a high madrega of Kedusha, like we say, we really can't comprehend who they were and what they were, but they were on such a high madrega of Kedusha that their limbs, their bodies, without thinking, their bodies automatically followed the Ratzon Hashem. They did the Ratzon Hashem. Let's say, for instance, by the Akedah. By the Akedah, where Avraham takes Yitzchak Avinu, they go up the mountain, and there's going to be an Akedah, right? But the Pasuk says, Vayishlach Avraham es Yodai. Avraham Avinu took his hand to Shech Yitzchak Avinu. So the Torah tells us, Vayishlach Avraham es Yodai. Avraham Avinu sent his hand. A little bit of a strange lashon. Do you ever see anyone talking to their hand or giving their hand instructions? You want to move your hand, you move your hand. Vayishlach Avraham es Yodai. He sent his hand like it's some sort of part of him that's detached from himself. He sent his hand. What does that mean? The hand of Avraham, says in Nesivos Shalom, the hand of Avraham would not move. Avraham Avinu wanted to take it, to pick up the knife to Shech Yitzchak. His hand would not move. And you know why his hand would not move and it wouldn't go? Because we know that ultimately the Ratzon of Hashem, the will of Hashem, we all know, now we know, that Hashem, of course, did not want Avraham Avinu to do anything to Yitzchak. The whole thing was a test, and nothing was supposed to happen. And because Avraham Avinu was so in tune with what Hashem ultimately wants, with the Ratzon Hashem, his hand would not move. So the Torah tells us, Vayishlach Avraham es Yodai. Avraham Avinu had to push his hand. He had to send his hand because his hand refused to move. Avraham Avinu had to forcefully send his hand. And Yaakov Avinu says in Nesivos Shalom, Yaakov Avinu was the same. Yaakov Avinu was not able to be consoled regarding Yosef. You know why? Because the ultimate will of Hashem, we know now, was that the connection between Yaakov Avinu and Yosef should remain strong. And it should stay that way. And that connection of Yaakov and Yosef should be the Yeshua that Yosef had during the time that he was in Mitzrayim. The fact that Yaakov and Yosef stayed connected, that is what saved Yosef from all the dire situations in Mitzrayim. So Yaakov Avinu could not come to terms with the loss of Yosef. Why? Because Yosef saw the image of Yaakov Avinu in Mitzrayim. When Yosef went through the Nisyonis, he saw, and he was still connected to Yaakov Avinu. And Yaakov Avinu knew the Yaakov Avinu on his Madrega felt that the Ratzon Hashem was that they should stay connected, so Vayimo'en lehisnachem. Yaakov Avinu could not be consoled. Yosef was able to use the connection with Yaakov Avinu to overcome everything in Mitzrayim, where the Torah says that he was Moishel B'chol Eretz Mitzrayim. All the depravities and all the lowliness of Mitzrayim, Yosef was Moishel Al Kol Eretz Mitzrayim. He was able to rise above that and rule all of Mitzrayim. And really, when a person feels in life, they're struggling, you're struggling with your Avodas Hashem, you're struggling in anything in life, or you feel like you're falling in madregas, if you have that rope, if you keep that connection, the connection that Yosef kept with Yaakov Avinu, you hang on to that lifeline, you hang on to your family, to your parents, to your ancestors, to your Torah that you learned. You have a lifeline like Yosef had with Yaakov. That is something, you have a way always from that rope, you hang on to it, you have a way to pull yourself up. It's like a lifeline thrown from a ship. You throw it overboard. As long as the person can grab hold and stay connected to that rope, you could be pulled back aboard. And that's what Yosef had in Yaakov Avinu. And that was the amazing connection that stayed between Yosef and Yaakov. So Yosef told his brothers, Ani Yosef. He said, I'm Yosef, just know that I am the same Yosef, even after all the nisyonis and everything that a person goes through in Mitzrayim, just know that I am still Yosef. And right after that, he asked again, Ha'oid Avichai, to tell them how he is that Yosef. Ha'oid Avichai, don't you see? It's a statement, it's not a question. Ha'oid Avichai, don't you see that my father is still alive? My father is alive in me, that I was able to survive all the nisyonis of Mitzrayim by staying connected to Yaakov Avinu. That lifeline, that kesher, Yosef was saying, between myself and Yaakov is still alive, full force, and it's still full of life. That the life of my father still lives on within me. And that's a totally different statement than the previous asking when Yosef asked before, is Yaakov alive? Then the answer by the Shvatim was, yes, Yaakov was alive. Over here we see that the Torah did not say Avinu, because Yosef was talking about his connection to Yaakov. Even though they were brothers, and they knew that they were brothers at this point. Yosef was talking to his connection, about his personal connection with Yaakov. And that's why we do not find also that the Shvatim answered that question, because it wasn't a question. It was a statement. Yosef was telling them, Yosef was saying why he is who he is. What does Ani Yosef mean? Yosef was telling them that I stayed connected to my roots. I'm holding on to what I learned in my father's house, what I learned in my family's house, and that is how I am. It was actually a statement of still being connected. And really the lesson that we could all learn from here is what got Yosef through Mitzrayim, what got Yosef through the hard times, was staying connected to something. Again, if a person is struggling, if a person has a hard time, try to stay a little bit connected to good friends, to good people, to your family, because that's your lifeline. And that's a lesson we could pull out of this week's Parsha, and it's something that could change every one of us, what we learn from the way Yosef survived and the way Yosef lived in Mitzrayim.